Assalamu alaikum and a very good afternoon to everyone. I am Nurul Nawal, Senior Officer, and it's my honor to be your host today. We welcome you on today's WebCon organized by ICMA Center of Excellence. Our environment, our responsibility from awareness to action. Thank you for taking the time to join us on this important occasion of World Environment Day. This year's global theme, inspired by nature, for climate, for our future, reminds us of a simple but powerful truth that nature is not separate for our future, it's our future. Today's environmental sustainability is no longer just an environmental issue, it's a business issue, an economic issue, a governance issue, and most importantly, a human issue. That's why today's discussion is so important. ICMS's objectives not merely to talk about environmental challenges, we are here to explore solutions. We are truly honored to have an exceptional panel of experts joining us today. This panel discussion is scheduled from 3 to 5 p.m. and participants attending the complete session will receive an e-certificate. I request all attendees to share their details for e-certificate at the email address provided in the chat box. I would like to introduce our distinguished moderator and panelists. Our moderator for today's session is Ms. Samreen Oman Ansari, Director, ICMA Center of Excellence in Certifications, who has been actively leading professional development and sustainability focused initiatives across various sectors. Joining her on the panels are Mr. Paul Pinto, founder Net Zero Advisory Ltd. Our second panelist, Mr. Sajid Aslam, partner Sustainability LCC USA, partner Matriarch Ventures Exonomy LPP. Then we have our third panelist, Ms. Shabano Khan, Senior Development Policy and SDG Specialist, UNDP Pakistan. And our final panelist will be Mr. Asad Mahmood, Energy Efficiency and Renewable Energy Expert, Climate Change Specialist, Consultant, Trainer, and Project Developer. We encourage all participants to engage actively, share their thoughts, and contribute to this environment important conversation. With that, I would like to hand over the session to our moderator, Ms. Samreen Aman Ansari, to lead today's discussion. Ms. Samreen, please join the session.
Thank you so very much, Ms. Nawal, for starting this discussion. I'm very thankful to all the speakers who have taken out their important time to contribute to the discussion. And very good afternoon to everyone, including our speakers and audience. On behalf of ICMA International and Center of Excellence, please accept my salam. I warmly welcome you to today's WebCon, Our Environment, Our Responsibility, from awareness to action. Environmental sustainability basically is not a myth these days. We are aware as to what is happening to our environment and would like to work on it. We are witnessing evolution in the sustainability landscape, and organizations are increasingly being asked to align with global frameworks, such as sustainable development goals, such as ESG standards, such as science-based target initiatives. Yet, an important question remains. How do we move from ambitious commitments to practical implementations? Today's discussion will explore some of these realities. We'll examine the balance between economic growth and economic responsibility. We'll talk about the challenges of the implementation of sustainability initiatives in our resource-constrained environments. We're also going to talk about the biodiversity conservation, the role of carbon footprint reduction and carbon sequestration, and the actions required from the governments, businesses, and individuals alike. We'll also reflect on fundamental truth of sustainability is not merely about compliance and reporting. It's actually about action. I encourage all participants to engage actively, share their perspectives, and think about the role that each one of us can actually perform and add and contribute towards a sustainable future and more resilient one. With that, let us begin this conversation. Let me share with you the format of the program. After this, we're going to have a topic-wise questions from each of the speakers. I'm going to take your names and I'm going to ask you, take a topic and start working on that. And each one of you are going to answer the question. After that, there is one rapid fire round, which we have recently included in our WebCons. Last time was the first time, and now this is the second time for that rapid fire, and I personally love that. And later on, we're going to be taking the questions from the participants. Participants are encouraged to write down their questions in the comment section so that our esteemed panel can actually answer them. We're going to collect your questions and ask them. Then our program will be closed by our executive director, Mr. Amir Ijaz. Hi, everyone. Hi, all my panelists and speakers. Thank you very much for joining me. And I'm really grateful. In fact, I'm going to learn a lot from you. Thank you, Mr. Paul. Thank you, Ms. Shabano. Thank you, Sajid Sahab and Asad Mahmood Sahab. I'm really grateful. Let us take one topic at a time, and we'll explore, how we can facilitate some certain responses from you. Obviously, your responses are going to be expert opinion. And before that, I'd like to have a little introduction from your side, a hi from your side, starting from Ms. Shabani.
Thank you so much, Noor, and thank you, Samreen, for having me here. I'm Shahbano Khan, ladies and gentlemen. I am a SDGs expert and a specialist, and I'm right now working with the United Nations Development Program. But other than that, I work on sustainability, ESG impact, investments, and a lot of work in a broader realm that we call financing for development. And I'm glad to be a part of this discussion today and looking forward to the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Yes, Mr. Paul, can we have your introduction, please?
Yes, very shortly. I'm an advisor in decarbonization, so my standpoint is more business than technical. So I'm more focused on the microeconomics than macro economics. I'm very happy to be here with you, and what I heard from Shabano is very interesting because I think that at the macro level, I think that United Nations can play a very, very substantial role in the in this decarbonization journey.
Very true. Thank you so much, Paul Pinto. Now we're going to move towards Sajid Saab. Yes, sir.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum and good afternoon. My name is Sajid Aslam. I'm partner in sustainability. Our core focus is to the D and the B. The difference is sustainability versus sustainability is significantly everything goes by data. Unless until we can use auditable data, any claim, any progress we measure, that will not be able to substantiate the impact and the progress. So we work with governments, businesses, and investors in Pakistan, Middle East, Europe, and North America significantly to really help them to architect a high impact transition, including decarbonization, circular economy, and then it's lead to the second part, how to fund that. So we work on very specifically Islamic ESG aligned capital flows. So it's Sharia compliant climate fund flows. So these are the areas which we are working.
Wonderful. Very nice to know, Sajid Saab. It's something that I actually didn't know about your profile. Like you're also into ESG, Sharia compliant ESG. Wow, wonderful. A new initiative. Now I'd like to move to the Asad Saab. Ji, sir.
Ji, Assalamu alaikum and good afternoon, Ji. I'm Asad Mahmood and working in the field of mitigation and adaptation broadly with multiple development partners in Pakistan and at regional level as well. And apart from it, I'm heading global tech innovations based out in UAE and Pakistan, and also ESG Nexus, which is a consortium of firms. And basically, one of the side is the instrumentation side, which belongs to like real-time monitoring and capturing of the data from the field, and then bringing reliability into the reports. So that's something what our forte is.
Wonderful, sir. Wonderful. I think this is what is expected from our organizations these days. A lot. I mean, if we don't understand how are we going to report, then you understand the quality of reporting then. So let's start with the first topic that we have on our desk today: economic growth versus environmental protection. So for many years, economic growth and environmental protection have been portrayed as opposing forces. I hope you'd agree, because either you protect the environment or you develop your economy. Developing countries often argue that growth requires industrialization and infrastructure, while environmental advocates warn that unchecked growth comes at a significant ecological cost. So the real challenge is how to create it within sustainable boundaries. So my first question is from Mr. Paul Pinto. Organizations around the world are making net zero commitments. From your experience, as companies, are companies embracing sustainability because they genuinely see value in it, or because stakeholders and regulators are demanding it? What do you think?
Yes, thank you for this question. I think we are at the not at the very beginning, but at the beginning of a new industrial revolution.
True.
An industrial revolution decarbonized during something like 2 centuries. The industrial revolution was made on fossils, and the new industrial revolution will be made with fossil substitute. So I think the community, the business community, realizes that this is something that unavoidable. This is an unavoidable road path, and we have to embark in this journey. There is nothing else we can do. So, in the beginning, let's say 10 years ago, it was something very shallow, some fake commitment. But now, this is the core of our new economy. So all business, small and large, are really committed, not because for the earth's sake, but for profit's sake. So this is the good engine to move forward. People and business people are selfish, so you need to find a way to embark them, and the best way to embark them is to make them visualize the future profits they can make at the top of the decarbonization revolution. And so a new ecosystem is taking shape with a lot of startups. I made some, I've got some figures: 22,000 startups are born in decarbonization. This is huge. This is huge. And something like $2 trillion dollars have been invested in decarbonization since 2014. So the wave is massive, and there will be no U-turn. We are going forward, and the thing is, in all industrial evolution, the beginning is chaotic. There are a lot of invention. It's going anywhere, and there will be losers and winners. There will be some consolidation in some, in a decade from now. But the movement has started, and I call this the new industrial revolution.
Very rightly mentioned, Paul, that it's really a new industrial revolution. Because, like, as you've mentioned, in 2000, starters are born on decarbonization, and $2 trillion investment has been done, and it's substantial amount. But see, we have a combination of different countries. I mean, working together. Obviously, we all are part of this Earth, Mother Earth. So they are developing countries too. But I don't know if that notion is really active for those developing countries also, where I don't see, a lot of funds provided to them in terms of investment for making this ESG work or following certain SDG goals. So what do you think about it?
The question is addressed to me.
Yeah. It's out of the discussion you've just did.
Please, I didn't hear very well the question. Can you repeat it, please?
Okay, fine. Yeah. My question was, you've just mentioned that 22,000 starters are born in decarbonization. Second, you've also mentioned that $2 trillion investment has been done by governments. But do you see, it's this globe is a combination of many countries that some are developed, only a few are developed, and others are developing. So do you think that investment amount is really working in these developing countries, where I believe many organizations are investing on their SDGs themselves? We not provide, like in a country like Pakistan, I don't see, a lot of funding being given to different organizations to work on SDG frameworks and all. So what do you think about it?
Okay. Yeah, you're completely right. The maybe the 90% of the amount I have mentioned, both the number of startups and the amount invested, are concentrated in the West. But Pakistan, India are growing because, I think, for one reason, the level of
I think you're mute. Paul, can you please check your audio? We've just lost your voice.
do you hear?
Yeah, now we can hear you.
Okay. When we speak about West, I was saying that most of the investment, most of the startup are concentrated in the West. That's true for now. But if we take the example of Pakistan, the level of education is high, and the education is the fuel. I think the major fuel of the decarbonization revolution, because this new industrial revolution requires a lot of engineers, a lot of scientists. Otherwise, this is not with the journalists or, or entertainers that we will move through this decarbonization revolution. This decarbonization revolution needs a massive amount of engineers in various areas of science, from thermodynamics, electrochemicals, for example, in the solar panels, and this is something. This is the good news for me, but there are differences in terms of development, and I think the priority number one in the developing countries is electrification. This is, I wouldn't say that in the developing countries, in Africa, for example, everybody should buy an electric vehicle. It's completely nonsense. But electrification is, I think, paramount in all the developing countries. The infrastructure is the point of entry of the decarbonization revolution, along with the level of education in physics and science, in engineering.
Very truly mentioned, and I'm glad that we have some sort of encouragement, because we've got youth that is capable, that is educated, and the only thing that we, I believe, are missing out is some funding and investment to leverage that change or to create it in a very near future. But we're hopeful. Moving forward to Sajid Aslam Sahab, sir, about the same topic. Many businesses, particularly SMEs, worry that sustainability initiatives increase cost. As Mr. Paul has just mentioned, that organizations are eager for profitability. They'd like to see if this change or the sustainability effort is bringing me more profitability or not. So, how can organization make sustainability commercially viable while maintaining profitability?
Uh, Thank you, Samreen. I think we have to approach it very differently, and that's where I always showcase Pakistan as one of a success story. You don't start with SME. You start with the large organization. You start with the government side of it. And when you create that economies of scale, that SME also get that commercial benefit and they can ensure a profitability. Just look at the way the ESG reporting in Pakistan, the way it has been introduced. They introduced in a three different phases. They're starting with the companies who have got a revenue over 25 billion the first year, then 12.5, and then they come to all the organization. And that's for the listed company or public interest company to start with. When these companies, they have to comply, they create that ecosystem where SME also become a beneficiary and of that investment which they are making. So just taking an example of Unilever globally, so they are working with over 200 suppliers to streamline their processes around the ESG, and it's a co-investment. And that 200 suppliers are making somewhere like 80% of their supplies. Similar scenarios, we are looking at the local large organizations who are starting their initiative and they are partnering with the SME vendors and helping them to co-invest with them and ensuring their profitability. If we go with the SME, and that's a very common debate, the number of SME is too high. But SME doesn't have that access, and the particularly the leverage of that kind of capital or a cash flow availability, so they can invest now and then wait for the profit. But the large organization do have that one, and they also
Yeah.
get the premium around the product. For example, if you look at the textile exporter, they manage to retain their customer and they manage to charge the premium if they do the right kind of decarbonization, and they can substantiate that with the auditable data. But textile industry is not alone. They have got the ecosystem behind it. So they invest with their large suppliers as well. And those large suppliers then co-invest with the next tier of it. So that's an ecosystem approach. You can't start with SME. You have to start with the large organization and the public interest entity. And SECP specifically has taken that approach. And I strongly believe I have worked and seen other organizations who started with the ESG reporting initiative, and they have to take back their directives. Like recently, Brazil, they mandated IFRS S1, S2, and last week they have just revoke that. In EU, they started with CSRD, and then they have to either go with a different relaxation or delay those. Just because if you start with the entire economy in a one go, that's not possible. Or if you start with the organizations who can't afford it and you can't provide that kind of resources, again, it's not possible. So in case of SECP, they have provided the guidance, they have provided the regulatory framework, they have provided the portal, what to do and how to do it, and then they are showcasing it. And then they are using the large organization to support the small organization at the same time. State Bank has taken the same approach. They have started with the voluntary adoption. They have provided the resources, training, capacity building, because that's a very big investment once you talk about the SME, even to invest in their capacity building, to understand that space and create or architect that kind of high impact transition. So I think the regulatory approach and the government approach matters a lot, that how the ESG will be adopted in a country. And the number two, we also have to understand it's not an overnight thing which will happen. It's going to take its own time, 10 to 15 years. We have seen the Code of Corporate Governance adoption. We have seen the green banking adoption, which started in 2017, and now it's mandated, and now we are seeing the impact of it, but it has got the entire journey. So I think this is something which we need to propagate and create an awareness that start small, start in a partnership with the large organization, become a part of their supply chain. They will have to have more organization who have got that willingness, intent, and they want to work with those large organizations to become the part of that decarbonized ecosystem. So yes, if I go back, that if SME want to do it in isolation, it would be, there will be a profit impact, but most importantly, there is a cash flow impact because they will invest today and the benefit will come in 18 to 24 months. And SME may not have that kind of capacity or room to really live with that.
True that, true that. Very well mentioned that actually it has to start from either the government level or the giants in the business industry who can actually make the SMEs then the beneficiary of the benefits going forward. Like I'm really surprised to hear that Brazil actually went back into the mandate of the S1S2. Wow, I've never heard about it, although you obviously you're a part of it, you know it very well. But it's, do you think Pakistan is going to be, standing in the same line of Brazil? Going forward, if we take up this mandate and later on think about, oh, it's out of our hands, we cannot do that. What do you think about it?
No, Pakistan has already mandated. This is a first report which is going out. So
Oh, wow.
SCCP is supporting a lot. So the 2026 June, there are a lot of companies who fall in that criteria. They will be reporting. Banks will be reporting by December 26. That's the first
Okay.
phase. Second phase is 27 and then 28. And then SCCP has already announced that what the changes they will be making in 2029. So the organization should
Wow.
start preparing for Pakistan Green Taxonomy Alignment, which is a tool for the investment. So they start with the reporting, but that will end up with the proper Pakistan Green Taxonomy Alignment, which can help them to have that climate and Islamic Sharia investments in that, because in 2028 we are estimating or expecting that the most of the financial instrument would be Islamic. So that's again a roadmap which they have provided now. And they have started the capacity building around it, that the organization who are doing a basic IFRS S1, S2 reporting, how they will transition to the same reporting towards the activity level aligned with the Pakistan Green Taxonomy, so the capital flow can work. So there's a
Wow,
big
wonderful.
alignment.
Very nice to know. Yes, it's something really interesting, and I'm happy and I'm glad that it has actually started from Pakistan side. Now, the next question is for Ms. Shabano Khan. Developing countries face a unique dilemma. They must pursue economic growth while addressing climate vulnerabilities. So, how can climate considerations be integrated into national development agendas without slowing down the progress of the country?
So you've given me the toughest and the largest question to address so far.
Really? Oh, I'm
And
sorry.
considering, no,
Anybody
it's all
is
right.
allowed to answer after Ms. Shabano to add and contribute. Is
So,
that all
so
right, Ms. Shabano?
No, I was just messing with you, but thank you for this question.
Thank you.
I accept the challenge wholeheartedly, and I would like
Thank you.
to answer it from the perspective that since I've been working on the nexus of policy, at the same time, I work at a level with the SMEs and big companies as well as donors. So if I look at things from that perspective, from and bringing it down to Pakistan in particular, so there is no shortage of policies which help economy transition from where we are right now or to a green economic transition where economy as well as environment is preferred or prioritized. So there is no shortage of policies. There is no shortage of frameworks. And Sajid has,
Frameworks.
told us about it too already. There's green taxonomy. So there are different actors, Samreen, basically at the moment. So if I start at the policy level and I say that we have to pick one thing, economy over environment, then I would say it's not perhaps the right way to frame it. I would reframe it how to transition because we are here. It is, the need, the challenge to transition towards a better environment friendly economic model It's right here upon us. And we saw that in floods. And I'll just refer to what has been happening in the country in the last 5 years, Samreen. We had, because of the climate change, the environment change, locust attacks. We're an agriculture country. Policies are revolving around that. There were locust attacks. There are droughts. There are floods. There is extreme heat or there is extreme cold in a country like Pakistan where we were growing up. We were used to, we used to hear that we have all four seasons. We have the longest summer for better fruits and
See the
everything.
change in the climate, yeah.
Exactly. So we are here. There is now not the question of economy or environments. It's the question, how do we transition and we make sure that we take advantage of this opportunity. We use this as an opportunity, not as a something that we have to do. It's now, it
Yeah.
has to be a choice. And then bringing it to a bigger perspective. So the policies are there, institutions are there, but not to criticize, but to help through your platform, that all these departments need to talk. The financing bit needs to talk to the policy bit, and then they need to talk to the private sector, and private sector needs to talk to academia. These are four players at the moment in the market. We have that ground to play in, and the players, but the team needs to talk together. So that's what's happening on the bigger level. Now, if I move towards a little lower, not to say the word lower, but a more operational level. So, what's happening when these policies should come into play? First, the players need to talk together, and then we need to have a very solid implementation plan. We cannot go back to how things were happening. And having said that, I would like to bring the focus to a little more technical term that we talk about mitigation, we talk about adaptation and climate change. So, all over the world, they say that if you invest more on mitigation, you can save more later. For instance, right now you need to address the root cause of climate change so that your economy could transition better. But in Pakistan, we are not at the cause end. We are at the receiving end. We are at the impact end. We are at the adaptation end. So I would say go deeper to that transition. Policy, talk to, players need to talk and then devise a phased plan. Like Sajid mentioned, there is a phase plan for financing side. What are we going to do in 2027, 2028, 2029? And then I link it to what Paul was saying, that in the beginning we used to have these very ambitious targets. Let's bring it down to what Pakistan can do, frankly, what Sindh can do, what Balochistan can do, what Punjab can do in the next 6 months in just adaptation, because we are at the receiving end of climate change. We're not creating it per se. So at the receiving end, what we can do, small changes, which we'll be discussing later on, from provincial district administration level to constituency level, to then coming to the provincial headquarter level. So all these tiers of the government and at the society level, we need to come together. So in the end, I would like to link it in one sentence that right now it's not a question of economy over environment. It's how well we can transition and what is our priority. Sectors can be discussed, but broadly speaking, how can we reduce the impact of climate change? So this is a threat to country's economy, because if you don't have ground to work on, what will the economy be built upon? So to build that base, we need to have that just transition. The players need to speak to each other. There's no dearth of policies and frameworks, I'm telling you. We review them on daily basis. There are global frameworks, national, even provincial frameworks are there. So that's the bottom line, that not a yes or no on economy or environments. It's how well and when do we transition the economy from where we are right now to a more sustainable and a green economy. Thank you.
Very well said, Ms. Shabanu. And the most important point here is the communication and transparency and the linkage between different sectors of the economy here, working as the biggest players in Pakistan and maybe other countries as well, and how interactive we become in transitioning that benefit from one sector to another. Just as Sajid Saab just mentioned that, the benefit should, trickle down towards SMEs from the industry giants. So this is something that has to be created. And obviously, if it is being done, inshallah ta'ala, in Pakistan, we can see a very sustainable and resilient future. But what do you think, Ms. Shabano, is the climate-related SDG that our government should prioritize today?
So there are two actually. Samreen, I want to link it to what we're doing, what we're discussing today, with a focus on the SME, the backbone of the economy, which is the private sector. At the end of the day, whatever we do, it is the private sector.
Yeah,
So there are two basically. One is 13, climate change. Everybody knows about it. There is no,
yeah.
what should I say? There is no denying it. But there are two more actually.
Hmm,
There's one called responsible consumption and production. And not
hmm,
many people have a look at it because they just say that climate change 13, SDG 13
hmm,
is there. But the one to have a deeper look is, I think, it's a SDG 12, I think, responsible consumption and production. And I would recommend everybody here to have a look at it. It's been talking since 2015, even when ESG and all these things were being developed. Even at that time, UNDP sort of had this globally had this idea of which SDG can or categorically look at the industry. Then we have another one which is called industry, innovation, and infrastructure. So these two speak directly to what we are talking today, and they give the targets like every other target within SDG. You have a goal, but within that goal, you have indicators and you have targets. You have global targets, and then Pakistan adopted it. We have national targets, and we have then provincial targets. But Samreen, having said that, it's and acknowledging the fact that there are targets set by the government, there are targets set by the provincial government. The implementation is at the core of it. We had the government of Pakistan adopted SDGs as a development mandate. It was approved by the cabinet in 2016. We were one of the few first countries to do that. In 2018, we had our SDG frameworks. We had our short-term, long-term, medium-term priorities straight. We had them laid out, even by the provinces. So till 2019, we had a pretty good idea where we were going. But allow me to say this, that imagine in 2019, SDG 13 was a long term priority. But just in a few years, SDG 13 is so relevant that I can't the country can't wait another 10 years. And it saddens me to say this, that we were very good on SDG 13, but we lag behind on responsible consumption and
hmm.
production and industry and innovation. And why do I say this? I link it to your first question, Simreen, that when we, in a very technical way, in a very theoretical way, all SDGs are some way or the other interlinked. And for Pakistan, we call this SDG push. Responsible consumption and industry were the ones where Pakistan is actually really declining. If we combine these two together, there is a good chance that all other SDGs could also improve. Decent work, you might say, wash, clean water, clean energy. So the groundwork in SDGs term is there. I would say there needs to be an implementation plan supported by the government, because at the end of the day, uh, reporting on these targets is the government's responsibility in the UN's eyes. And at the same time, these two also talk to the private sector. So if any company, when we in future we talk about frameworks, so these two become the core of those frameworks. So just summarizing, what I wanted to say is there is one SCD by the name of climate change, but at the back of it that helps industry or that talks to industry is responsible consumption and production and innovation, industry and infrastructure. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. It's really it's learning experience for everyone connected in today's session, and I hope everyone is enjoying. I'd like to now ask Asad Mahmood Sahab. Renewable energy is often presented as a solution that benefits both the economy and the environment. From your perspective, how realistic is a large-scale renewable energy transition in Pakistan?
Well, I think when I talk about renewable energy, I always first of all give the top priority to the terminology of energy efficiency. To me, renewable energy is the flip side of energy efficiency. And whatsoever circumstances led us towards massive deployment of solar or renewable energy technologies in Pakistan. It's one of the some of the attributes are basically pure organic in nature, like the scaling, reducing cost of the technologies across the world, the scale of production by our neighboring country China. But nevertheless, it was also supplemented by the government exemption on duties, and lot of forex flew away. And that is something, again, as Ms. Shabana was referring to, like SDG 12 or combining the different SDGs 7 with 12. So to me, for Pakistan, indigenization should have been there. Pakistan was the first one to fabricate a solar cell when there was no solar ingots, silicon ingots melting furnace, even in China. So again, there was a sort of discourse. But having said so, whatsoever the situation right now is, a lot of changes are happening every day, and one of the biggest hurdle right now is in Pakistan for the industrial sector, which is basically those countries have only flourished where the industries, because the economic growth engine is basically are the industries, in fact, for every country. So until unless they don't get affordable, reliable, cheap, and clean electricity, and again, it's not only about electricity, it's also the market outreach, getting the markets out there, bringing the quality in. And that's how, like, even you give the free electricity and the industries don't have the orders, what are they going to do then? So it's a full supply chain you have to look into. So SDG 7, as you said, that the targets have already been achieved, you surpassed, you can say. And even when you look into the SDGs, the more ambitious SDGs are also being worked out again, because COP is coming, and the Ministry of Energy, Power Division, and other stakeholders, which were framed at, we have the entities, departments, but not speaking with each other. So provincial with federal, federal with global, or so that institutional governance aspect has to be looked into, that how much clean energy we are going to have till what time. Although we might be reaching a very saturation point, because every household, every second person is having sort of backup
Solar.
supply chain,
Yeah.
or solar boom is there. But nevertheless, technology disruptions cannot stop the transitions. So it's like, so these transitions have to be kept in mind by the government and policymakers, that how to adjust their business operational aspects, and not consider them as a threat, rather than facilitate or upgrade your grids with the same speed. It's the synchronization of the speed that is lacking at the grid. Your grid is not ready to uptake such a large, like, clean energy into it. And that's why, like, the disruptions, supply chain, like energy disruptions lead to, like, and the cost and uncertainty, as you might have been listening to, like, the changing of the tariff for those having solar. So the government is willing to push the industry towards the grid, because at night time there is no solar. So and so it's still they need the electricity. So for that, the batteries are now taking that place to fill the valleys within the power generation curves of the country. But nevertheless, it's all about survival. Every industry is thinking of their own strategy at the moment, with the fear factor that they don't know what is going to be the tariff for, until and unless they don't get off grid. They don't know what's going to be the tariff on the grid by remaining connected to the grid. Although it gives the comfort as a backup plan, it gives you the comfort that you're connected with the grid. But how reliable is it? That's the million-dollar question, specifically for the
Yeah, and
con-
my another
yeah.
question is, what you've mentioned so many areas, that are working as a barrier in preventing faster adoption. But what do you think, in your perspective, is the biggest barrier preventing faster adoption of renewable energy?
Well, I think that renewable energy at one side has, like, brought Pakistan on a global stage as a case study of
True.
like one of the good case study that we are the largest adopter. And but I think being a energy efficiency practitioner, it overshadowed the inefficiency within the machineries, within the production processes, and most of the industries who were sought to change their inefficient motors or inefficient appliances or guzzlers, so they only focused on investing on the solar, and then or any other renewable energy technology, and leaving behind this gap, which government or other stakeholders have to look into, because that is something where your inventory reporting and your like embedded emissions and things like that are going to come, and they have a very critical role to play.
Very rightly mentioned, because although we are running fast in the race of solar energy, but again, quality of the appliances and things to be there. Otherwise, that is going to not curtail the expenditure, rather increase it. Because otherwise, you have to have that again, implanted on your rooftops after a year or two. So that is actually adding to the expenditure. Anyways, there is one debate question for the audience, and we are going to paste it in your comment section. And I want everyone right now looking into this webcon to answer it, please. After every topic, we're going to have a question for the audience. If policymakers had to prioritize one objective over the next decade, rapid economic growth or environmental sustainability, which should come first and why? So this question will be written in the comment section, and I would like to urge everyone to answer that. Now, moving on to the next topic, which is zero waste lifestyle. I'd like to talk a little about it. A zero waste lifestyle is based on simple principle to minimize the amount of waste, to rethink the way in to consume the resources more efficiently, to embrace practices such as reducing, repairing, recycling, or compositing. There is one recycling ICOR 2026 in Faisalabad on 10th of June. It's a one-day event. If you're aware about it, and if you guys are also going to attend it, I've actually heard it from one of my friends that's happening in Faisalabad in Serena Hotel. And ICO 2026 is bringing researchers, industry experts, policymakers, entrepreneurs, and development partners to discuss innovative solutions for plastic waste, food waste, textile waste, and agriculture waste. So it's going to be the first, I believe, kind of a conference in Pakistan on recycling. And I'm really happy to hear about it. So the idea of zero waste lifestyle has gained significant popularity worldwide. Yet many people wonder whether it's a realistic thing or it's just a myth, or if we are really doing it or imitating it. So now we're going to have questions on this topic. The first question is from Ms. Shabanu Khan. Climate discussions often focus on governments and institutions. So how important are individual lifestyle choices in addressing environmental challenges?
So my answer is always going to be like I won't pick one side. Perhaps I'll just link all the sides together. So
Yes, sure.
Simreen, I was just before this conversation, I was thinking about my own lifestyle. Let's just say when I was not in Pakistan, I was living abroad for studies or for work. There was an environment where I was asked to, and I had to, and I adopted that lifestyle where waste was somehow reduced, recycled, or reused because there was an appropriate enabling environment for it. There was infrastructure for it, and there was a penalty for not adopting
Doing
that kind
it.
of a lifestyle. It hurted me, it
True.
caused me problems. I had to pay a tax if I wouldn't properly dispose of the household waste to begin with. So having this personal experience, which I'm sure all the participants right now, we have traveled to other countries. We live in Pakistan, but at least in Islamabad, I've seen that there is an adoption of how to reduce waste, and at an institutional level, things have started going on. So I'll link it in a way that there is, if I talk about individual behaviors, uh, awareness is important. Awareness to begin with is very important. And when I say this, I should also mention that the people who, all of us who are in the panel and who are listening to us, we are the ones who are here because we're aware of the subject. But what about that 19.9% of the people, to be precise, in Pakistan, who are not aware of the consequences of their individual choices? So first
Right.
point, I think, in this question comes in that there is an information asymmetry about it. In my previous conversation, when we were talking about frameworks and everything, there was there is a coordination dilemma or there's a coordination problem. Here, I think it's an information asymmetry problem. So if the right amount of information is given, I believe that individual choices could actually impact, a bottom up or individual to an institutional or, a government level shift. But having said that and had that lived experience, which I'm sure everybody, all the panelists and the people who attended, one or the other way, either through travel or through work, have experienced in other countries, unless or until there is an incentive for me to have that behavior, or if not an incentive, a
Then
penalty.
a
Uh,
punishment. Then a
Exactly. If there's
punishment.
a punishment to that individual
Yeah,
behavior,
true.
at a society level, my behavior wouldn't matter. So when coming back to Pakistan, I adopted keep a cup approach. I wouldn't buy coffee in a takeaway cup or not use a plastic cup, turn off the lights at least on my desk. And, adopting what my parents used to do because electricity was too expensive, turning off extra lights and everything. But then what is the reward in it in our society? So,
Yeah.
kind of linking my answer to the fact that individual behavior is very important. It could bring about a change in at least my immediate circle. But if I would say that my individual behavior would change things, it's unrealistic to say that. So it has to be coupled with what is my environment telling me. It was just one example in Islamabad. It was so absurd that there will be no plastic bags in Islamabad. There was a drive in Islamabad in the last few years that there will be no plastic bags usage because it hurts the biodiversity in the Margula Hills. It's causing pollution problems in the city. We have a beautiful city and there's a lot of problem because of the plastic bags. The idea was so absurd. But when they started penalizing the shops who were sort of keeping it, selling it, that ecosystem developed. It was adopted
Yeah.
in the government. Where I was in the government at that time, we were given jute tote bags. It became a trend even within the firms. It was a trend in the
Yeah.
manufacturing industry that we switched to cotton bags, and there was this
Yeah.
burst. It became a fashion. It became the talk of the town from
Yeah.
something that,
Branded bag,
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah,
branded bags,
exactly. So something
once
that
bought,
was.
reused many times.
Yes, yes, exactly. And bags which, if you dispose, would become seeds. So things like that. So it is a disruptor. Your individual behavior can make some changes, but it has to be at a bigger level. It will be a disruption. But then again, it is making me shift my individual behavior. So it has to be coupled. Phase-wise approach, we will hear this a lot over the next 1 year as well, so that it doesn't hurt an individual lifestyle at a firm level, at a production level. And then, we didn't think about those very, what should I say, the poorest of the poor who sell these small things that make individual choices. You see a cart or a vendor every day selling plastic boxes, lunch boxes. Don't you see that going around in your own street? So while I want to change my individual behavior, at a bigger level, I want to be mindful of everybody in operating in this ecosystem. And having said that, there has to be a certain amount of either incentive or a penalty to make sure that individual behaviors respond to systems, because this at one stage do become systems, and it has to be systemic but a phase change. So I hope this
Very
answer
true.
helped
Yes, you
you.
have very well covered the answer, Shabano. Actually, you very well mentioned that it's an information asymmetry, and obviously, having an enabled environment can actually create people with the same behavior and can actually channelize that sort of an environment where everyone is following that. And it has to start from every individual. One person obviously cannot make the difference, but like everyone working on the individual level can actually create that. So this is something that we all are looking forward to, and everybody who's part of the panel, I would encourage them to talk about this with their kids at home, to talk about this with their families, their neighbors, their co-workers, sit together, have on coffee a discussion about this WebCon, talk about little things that they can add value to make our environment more resilient. Now, my second question is from Sajid Aslam Saab. Businesses generate significant amounts of waste throughout their value chains. What practical steps can organizations take to move towards circular economy and waste reduction models?
I think I'll go back to the two different things. The first, we have to understand the quantum of the waste, right? So just to give you a few numbers, and you will see that what industry is doing and what is the waste generated within the production or manufacturing process, and what is the waste generated through pushing an impulse buying, right? So there are two types of waste. That's how the businesses operate. So just quoting a one number, every 30 seconds, we waste around 12 ton of food, right? And the 12 ton of food can feed 35,000 people. And in those 30 seconds, 2 people die because of hunger. So that's the unit economy of those 30 seconds. The food for 35,000 people is wasted, and the 2 people died because of hunger, right? It's just that the economic doesn't work. You are importing the materials from the developing country, and the consumption is happening in a developed country. Even the wasted food cannot go back because the economics will not work. But what we can do as a business, not to import it, leave the food there, right? Because we know that we are pushing impulse buying behaviors where the people buy more than what they need. Second example, every year we produce 100 billion apparels. 70 to 80% go waste. And when we say waste, we are talking about the waste, landfills. We are not talking about recycling it and bringing it back as a apparel again. So we, for the next year, 100 billion, we again consume the resources to generate that 100 billion. So those 70, 80%, they are not being recycled. They are going in the same cycle of maybe like in a second-hand market and all that. But again, the 100 billion are produced. If you look at the footwear, we produce 33 billion footwears every year. And we waste around 63%, which goes in waste. So I'm just sharing the behaviors
So huge number.
and the
I'm
volumes.
unable to digest that. I'm actually
Right.
unable to digest all the numbers you're mentioning, Sajid sir.
Okay,
Yes.
let me give you another number which is happening at every home. You know, air conditioning, we just switch it off through remote. And there are 2 billion air condition around the world. And every air condition which is switched off through the remote and not switched off with the power cut, that consume 0.5 watts to 10 watts per hour. And if you can just look at the waste of energy which is generated, it's more than 1,000 megawatt, right? So these are the kind of things which are happening around us. Now we go to the second part. Do we, as an industry or a businesses, do we need to create an awareness and go for the what Shabana was earlier thinking about, responsible consumption? Does responsible consumption have an economic case for the businesses who are in a production? What will happen to their sales? Right? So how the sales will happen, so how they will grow, right? So there is another dilemma when you push for the responsible consumption. There is a certain economic structure and ecosystem which we have created around that consumption behavior, and we have generated a certain and maintaining a certain impulse buying campaigns so that production and the sales target could be achieved. So that's a one side of the story where the waste is going. Then there's the economic side of it. If the responsible consumption behaviors are triggered, how the entire industry going to transition. Now, there's a third part, the waste which is generated within the organization while they are doing that processing or production side of it. So there are multiple wastes. Some are visible and some are not visible. The first waste is the energy, like Asad also mentioned. Going to a cleaner energy is a one side, but efficient use of the energy and having those appliances and machinery is also an important part. So always when you are transitioning, first you have to go for efficient consumption, and then what is the leftover, the residual consumption, that should move to the cleaner energy side, rather than going for a cleaner energy and keeping all the waste intact, because that energy which we are saving can be utilized somewhere else. So that's also one of a part. That's also reduce the load on our transmission infrastructure, which is like in case of Pakistan and many other developing countries, that's already challenged. The second part, we look at the resources side, whether it's a material, whether water, we are talking about even the labor hours. The one thing, again, you will be surprised to know, when we are looking at the different productivity rate of the countries, like within the 40 hours, what kind of standardized output labor is generating, and we are talking about unskilled labor right now. So if you compare it with the India and Bangladesh and Sri Lanka, in a 40 hours, they are generating somewhere the output equivalent to 30 to 32 hours. In China, in a 40 hours, they are generating an output of 55 to 60 hours. In Pakistan, the average is less than 20 hours. So how you will account for that productivity waste, which is embedded in our manufacturing system, because of something which Shabano earlier mentioned, the systems. We are managing stuff on an ad hoc basis rather than the systematic processes. So if we are looking from an industry perspective, so there are two kinds of responsibility as an industry we have to start looking at. Number one, our economic model, whether it's produced to sale or it's produced to use. There are new economic model which is evolving. You produce something, you give it to someone, they don't want to use it, you take it back and you give it to someone else. That's where the Europe has really brought that extended product responsibility. So in our apparel side, they are also now talking about that, how that apparel should have that extended life. So extended producer responsibility is ensuring that whatever they are selling, it has a durability. And at the same time, they also tell them if you're not using it, what to do with that, rather than keeping it in the cupboard and producing a new one. The second side comes into the side, what we are going to do within our production processes. It has to be automated. It has to have a systematic process. We have to take out that ad hoc interventions, which on a assembly line or on a production floor we are doing. And we have to ensure something which Asad earlier mentioned is the overall efficient systems. So when we bring that, so the first thing which will happen, it will improve the productivity of the unskilled labor who is engaged there, right? So that's the first thing. For a country like Pakistan, that matters a lot. Just leaving that, if your industrial output is like 45% of your total GDP, so if you double it or even make it 1.5 times, that make a huge difference in the overall economic side. Secondly, it bring a more climate resilient structures there, because it will reduce, number one, the productivity waste, but at the same time, this system help you to really reduce the material wastage as well. Create that awareness, how to consume water, what is the benchmark for the water. That's where the SDG and the ESG benchmarks comes into play. The reporting and disclosure come into play as well. And that lead to the second part. When you reduce that, it reduces your cost and improve the profitability at the same time. So that's the second part of that. Whenever you reduce the waste, that directly improve your profitability. To do all that waste reduction initiative from a material perspective, from a intangible perspective, which is a productivity sided, from an energy perspective, the one thing which is a common denominator is the capacity building and understanding that. And the second part is the data, having that visibility. When I just share the certain data element, the global impact and everything, that create that kind of wow factor. If we start reducing it, what we're going to get out of this one. And every businessman has got a intent. I wouldn't say they implement that. They have an intent to reduce the waste within the organization so they can make more money. And anything which is wasted, how they can bring it back to the supply chain and again convert that into the monetary term.
Profitability.
So from a profitability perspective. So I think if I summarize entire thing, there are two things. There's a responsible consumption side of it, which will reduce the waste in terms of intangible, which we are not seeing right now. And that's not something where the industry is responsible. It's the behavior which we as an individual have adopted, and we are forcing or getting influenced through a certain campaigns, and we are forcing them to produce more, and then we waste that one. Second part, within the production process which is existing there, whether it's a waste, or it's a tangible waste, or it's an intangible waste, like in terms of the productivity, I think both those things need to be more visible, quantified, and the investment has to first go in a capacity building so they can recognize it as a problem and opportunity at the same time and start doing something about it.
Very well, sir. It's a very shocking knowledge from your side. I mean, I'm really carried away with all those numbers that are actually creating a problem for our economy as a whole. I mean, I'm not talking about one individual organization or a person or maybe one business, but actually it's impacting the whole country. As a country, if we see 40 hours producing only 20 hours output, it's something that we're wasting every other day. We need to have those systems in place, and I believe that you people, being the expert, should be guiding the industry as a whole, like the private sector, the government sector, the FMCGs, every kind of, maybe the academia also, so that going forward, if they come to the market, we have people who already are aware as to how they're supposed to behave going forward and how they're supposed to make the systems going forward. So big responsibilities on our shoulder. Now, my second question goes to Mr. Paul Pinto. From a
Yes.
global sustainability perspective, are corporations paying enough attention to waste reduction, or are emissions still receiving most of the attention? What do you think?
Before I get to I answer your question, I just wanted to add something regarding recycling, the relationship between decarbonization and recycling. Because decarbonization is very rare material intensive industry, and 45% of the materials needed to build, for example, solar panel, will face scarcity in by 2030. So I think that recycling in the decarbonization industry is very critical, because rare material are not infinite, and we have
To that.
to, and they are very expensive. So in the ecosystem of the decarbonization industry, if we just take wind turbines and solar panels, they are very high rare material consumers, and we need to address this issue of recycling. It is already addressed, but we have to be more innovative in this area. Samrin, so I
I'm really
answer a
sorry.
question that has not been
There came some
that has
urgent,
not, that
and I
has
had
not
to pay
been
my
asked.
attention to that. I'm really sorry for it.
So
Yes, Paul.
what was your last question regarding corporations?
Basically, you've mentioned that the thing that I actually catched up with you was, like, we're working in decarbonization. It's a material intensive industry. And obviously, we cannot bear with losing those rare material. Obviously, it has to be, the recycling industry has to work very well. This is what I actually got from your words. Maybe if you've added something else, then I missed it. So second part is,
Yeah.
yes, please.
No,
Do
I
you want to
just
say
want
something?
to add something regarding what has been said by Sajid. I couldn't agree more of what has been said by Sajid, because prior to my activity in decarbonization, I used to work on lean management and the Toyota
Oh,
production
wow.
system, and the waste is at the core. Waste management is at the core of
Hmm.
the lean management, what we call mudas. Mudas is a Japanese word for
Yeah.
waste in everything. and in a material, but in time, in people, in capacity, and I couldn't agree more. And I think that through lean management, the lean management 2.0 is a good way to start decarbonization without any kind of resources needed. Just uh, uh, um, try to cut off all the wastes within the organization, and in the
The
large
system.
organization mostly.
Very well said, Paul. Actually, I'm also a lean management expert, and I can very well relate to, how wastes should be identified in the organization. And then, obviously, when you've identified something, it's high time that you start working on it. Yes, Ajit, you have a question?
And I just want to add on the recycling side. I think that's a waste management, and then going back to the collection and bringing it back and recover the material side of it. It's again, it's not something which single industry can do, and we have got a very good example within Pakistan. Way back, Sapphire started with a certain bags where it was a seed based bag. So even if it's wasted and it goes in the landfill, it converted
Environment.
itself
Yeah.
significant into the environment friendly tree or plantation side of it. So that was the claim. So, but what happened? Stuff's fire cannot do it in isolation unless until the entire industry start adopting it. If there's economies of
Yeah.
scales are not there, that doesn't work. Similarly, if you look at that, there's a lot of effort can go in term of waste to value project, where we have got a solid waste which is coming out of the homes and industries both side, and you can start converting into the energy, you can start converting into compost, you can recover material and put that back into recycling. But just imagine within the Punjab, while the Sutra Punjab Authority is doing that, the level of investment they have to do and commitment they have to see from a government side, it's over 500 billion plus budget to do that, to create that kind of ecosystem. But what happened as soon as they have created a success, now a lot of people who are willing to use that waste, because previously the biggest cost is to bring it from the homes to a one single landfill site where the people can pick it up and do that. Now they are collecting 50,000 ton every day, and that 50,000 ton for any investor become a lucrative raw material. Now they can invest in those waste to value project. But if you ask the private sector investor to collect all that waste, that's not possible. That's practically, they will not see that how they're going to use it and how long this policy will work. But now they have created a success. So this 500 billion today, which they are investing from the government budget, or I would say that the initial equity which they have invested, now it's attracting the investment, which is way more than 500 billion rupees. So these are the kind of policy interventions at the grassroots level, not only the policy, but the implementation of that policy. So the way it was structured, that really helped. Similarly, Pakistan has got another project where they're doing in Sindh, which is a 2.1 million houses. So they have mobilized the local resources and they are using something which is indigenously available, and they are converting them into the resilient infrastructure, so the flood next time cannot do anything. And both these projects are the largest projects in the world, not in Pakistan, in the world, the way these being handled. So these are the
Wow.
success stories which we have to bring back. I know there are a lot of, from a plastic perspective, again, plastic is a magic material. Don't go take it wrong. If we did not have plastic, a lot of supply chain which exists today, that would not have happened. Even in a one room, you see. But one-time use of plastic, if you see from the 1950s when it started, it has produced over 9 billion tons, sorry, and 9 billion out of 9 billion tons, 7 billion ton is sitting in the landfill sites, and the 2 billion is the one which is reused, right? So these are the kind of things which require an economic incentive, like Shabano earlier picked up, that unless until that economic incentive exists, that recycling, reuse, that kind of industry will not flourish unless until it's an industry level initiative. It has got that collection mechanism properly incentivized, and subsidize, or somebody's also have an economic interest to do that collection side, and then this recycling and the reuse can work.
Good contribution, sir. Thank you so very much. Now I will go back to Mr. Paul. Your second part of the question was, are corporations paying enough attention to waste reduction, or are emissions still receiving most of the attention?
I'm not a specialist of waste management. What I can see is that the biggest carbon greenhouse gas emitters are the heavy industry, steel, petrochemicals, pulp and paper, and this kind of industries. I think they emit something like 20% of the greenhouse gas. It's a big issue. And before they move, they shift to some, let's cement. I forgot cement. The modernization, entire decarbonization of these industries. It's a very complex, journey to results to achieve. But what they can do, and this is what they are doing now, is improving their efficiency. I give you one example. In the heavy industry, what we call the heat exchanger is something very important. It's one of the core of the activity of the industry. The heat exchanger changes cold into hot and hot into cold. The boiler in our house is a heat exchanger. At our level. And the fooling of this head exchanger, for example, increases the emission of carbon in the atmosphere, for example. So I know a company that has put in place, developed, invented, and put in place a predictive maintenance system that works 24/7 to prevent this fooling from happening, for example. And this is a win-win game, because when you prevent fooling from happening in the heat exchanger, the company saves a lot of money, and at the same time emits much less of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. So the first thing the big companies and mostly the heavy industry has to do is to work on the thermodynamics, the OEE, overall equipment efficiency, just to prevent the outage, and to prevent we know that when a big equipment is poorly maintained, it emits a lot of carbon. It uses a lot of energy, and this is the first thing to do before getting to some, between codes, very fancy, decarbonization scheme. You know what I mean? So this is the first things to do, and in the other part of the industry, for example, the supply chain, how to decarbonize the supply chain. In the supply chain, transportation is something crucial, and that we know is that in using again the lean management, we can optimize the roads, the way we use the trucks. I've seen trucks half empty, and this is not the good way to address supply chain optimization. And again, this is a win-win game. When you optimize your supply chain, you save money, you make more profit, and you emit less carbon in the atmosphere. So before getting to the wonderful decarbonization system, which is not going to happen before a decade in the industry, there are a lot of things we can do uh, right now through a better utilization of the equipment, an optimization of the supply chain. And again, lean management can be a very, very good tool with, and this is why I call it the lean management 2.0, with the support of AI in predictive maintenance, for example.
Thank you so much, sir. You very rightly mentioned that efficient use of resources and equipment is one thing that obviously is not going to add a lot of carbon in the atmosphere. And again, taking care of the waste can also make your systems and processes more efficient, and that can also help us in taking care of the emissions. Now I'm going to ask my question from this particular topic from Asad Mahmood. So, sir, when we discuss environmental sustainability, energy and waste often intersect. What opportunities exist to convert waste into energy or other valuable resources?
Yeah, well, being a practitioner in terms of carrying out numerous energy audits in different industries, like from Pakistani context, there are large-scale steel manufacturers who are selling their waste at higher prices than that of their main produce. So in terms of like whatsoever they are, the fumes, the emission abatement plants, capturing units, which they have installed on their ladle furnaces, and the zinc extracted from it, it's exported to other countries because and they are earning foreign exchange. Many of the large scale steel manufacturers over here and small scale even. So certain practices also do exist in terms of waste. It's all about how waste is interpreted everywhere. Like as Mr. Paul was saying about heat exchanger, there is cogeneration, there is trigeneration. So everything that is these could be classified. Many of the industries, those having their own captive units, they are utilizing waste in one way or the other, waste heat in terms of cooling, heating, or for the process optimization. So, so this is something like the beauty of like as even before this ESG coming into practice again, as you have been practicing, Samreen, yourself, the Six Sigma thing. So that has been applied in interloop industry, and similarly, the all other techniques like 5S, Kaizen, and and similarly the TPM and other methods of manufacturing. Paul, you might be knowing about the Mutanai. Every waste is precious. So adding value or understanding that your waste is precious, something captures attention of everyone, because sometimes waste is not looked into from the perspective of being useful. So this is something like this full circular loop economy that has to be looked into. And similarly, like in terms of what I can say, in terms of emission abatement, there are certain technologies. We do have solutions in Pakistan, if not in Pakistan, in other countries as well, where we can we need not to like reinvent the wheels. We can just have to just follow the things in terms of transition. And when we talk about transition, it's not the race, what I say. It's all about getting in discipline and formation, just like aeroplanes flying in a fly past March, where they are going in the same direction at the same speed, but the discipline is something which gives them the holistic look. So it's all about like how you transition, one step at a time, one technology at a time. Again, government help coming in, giving a hand holding to the end user, to upgrade their systems, to upgrade their, I'm talking from industrial perspective, definitely from household perspective. There are different schemes which are there again in terms of you can say in terms of energy wastage. The fan replacement scheme is there, and other things are there where you give your old fan and you get the new energy efficient fan, and that fan which is being removed, that is again being repurposed, reused somewhere else, being melted. So that's a full cycle which is there. So sometimes best practices do exist in our nearby surroundings, but we don't tag them as utilization of waste. And the best waste practitioners are the street scavengers. You can see in every street. You mostly ask the daily rates from them. What is the rate of iron or whatsoever waste they collect? And every waste recycle, those street scavengers, they have their own different interesting stories to tell as well, and industries as well. So I think like it's all about mapping all the things. Where, as we know, material flow cost accounting is something that is coming up in the waste side of the things. So that is something where if we start focusing on mapping the value chain, and then this is something coming up very actively when we talk about like disclosures in the under the ESG. You have to go for credit to gate or going beyond the gate. So all these things have to be addressed there as well. Giving the waste the numbers, be it be monetary numbers or be it be emission numbers, until unless we are very good in calculating GDPs every year near the budget, but working out on the waste values or the benefits of it, that is something which has to be a common norm, and that is going to trigger the market then.
Wonderful, wonderful addition, Asad. Yes, we should be working on measuring the waste. It should be part of your annual, like financial statement, wherein you're actually calculating that also, or either adding it into your profitability, converting into energy, or thinking of it as a cost. So wherever you take it, it has to be calculated and mentioned. Wonderful addition. Now that we are done with this particular topic, I have a question for the audience. And my team is going to write that question in the comment section, and I urge you to please respond to that. How many of us know where household waste actually ends up after collection? What do you think? Where does our household waste go? So, any ideas? Please talk about it. Now, let's move on to the third topic, which is biodiversity loss and why it matters. There are two things that I'd like to talk about. I mean, obviously, I'm sitting with experts to talk about a few definitions. Doesn't look nice to me, but please do not. This is not for you. This is for the audience. Maybe they need a little awareness. What is climate change? Long-term shifts in temperature, weather, climate system caused by burning fossil fuels, deforestation, and maybe industrial emissions. And it adds to what? Greenhouse gases, and that adds to global warming. So this is something we should all be knowing. So it was for my understanding. I took notes before the WebCon, and I want you to also learn what I learned. And then what is biodiversity loss? Decline in variety of life on Earth, including plants, animals, insects, microorganisms, and their ecosystem. What drives biodiversity loss? Habitat destruction, pollution, overexploration of natural resources, or maybe a climate change. Healthy ecosystems naturally absorb carbon dioxide from atmosphere, but when ecosystems are destroyed, less carbon is absorbed or maybe more is generated in the atmosphere. So these are the little things that we all need to keep in mind before destroying habitats of maybe different animals, insects, organisms, because this climate, as Shabanu just mentioned at the beginning, is affecting everyone. And rather than, because it's difficult for us to adjust to everyday change in the climate, because, maybe when we were young, it was different. When we started growing up, it was different. And now it's entirely different. And it's shocking for us every other season how long the summer is now and how long the summer was earlier. So we have to pay attention to it because our future generations are going to be living in the same planet. So keep that in mind. Now, for biodiversity, the first question is from Ms. Shabano. Climate change and biodiversity loss are deeply interconnected. How does climate change accelerate biodiversity decline, and what risks does this create for vulnerable communities?
Thank you, Samreen. So this is actually something very close to my heart. I mean, I work on SDGs, but somebody who's been, as it from childhood, been fascinated by biodiversity, whether it's flora or fauna, or whether it's something outside your house or your window or your office. And now I'm in Islamabad, Margalla Hills. This topic is very close to my heart. But bringing it the professional lens to the subject. So I was just thinking while you were, putting this discussion, first of all, that biodiversity is not an option. Climate change, like I said, it's a very big, climate change is a big task. There's a lot under climate change to cover, but biodiversity goes even beyond that. I'm going to bring a bit of scientific knowledge to it. Thanks for the description earlier for everybody who's listening to us. Since I'm interested in the subject, I was reading that every year the amount of whales that wash up on the shore is increasing. And what we don't understand is that these whales are the pillar of the whole ecosystem, not just the ocean system, but the world. And what's been happening because of the use of the oceans and seas for commercial activities, they've been losing their way, and a lot of things to go about it. Actually, the world is at loss. And then what we do with overfishing, and then just bringing this broader topic to the narrower lens, that how it impacts communities. I'm really moved by two examples from Sindh because my work expands all over the country. So what's been happening in Sindh and coastal areas of Sindh and then in Balochistan, climate change has reduced the amount of fishes that a normal fisherman in Sindh or Balochistan used to have. Because every season there would be rain, their lakes would fill up. This is just one example. And it's not happening over the years. There is no production or overproduction of that fish that used to happen every cycle, every 2 years. In some areas, every 3 years, the fish used to, multiply in numbers. And that was the basic, the livelihood of that fisherman. And you know how I would like to relate it to the bigger picture? We always talk about blue economy but the base of the blue economy is completely empty. And when I used to read all these policy papers and go into the conferences, impact of the blue economy has to come down to that fisherman or the small scale fish farmer, but that fish farmer is actually being hurt by the climate change at a scale that is not that we cannot apprehend at the moment. I'll just give you one example. Then when I joined UNDP, I think 4 years ago when I started working with them, the country representative visited this community in Sindh, and they said every year the flood comes and takes our boats and livelihoods. But this year it's a drought. There is no water here. And that's the shift over 1 year.
Yeah, look at
It's
it.
a shift over 1 year. And then again, last year, after a repetition of 3 years, there was a drought in the same area. So the risk for the communities is getting higher and higher. But I won't stop here at the risk. I won't stop here that biodiversity has to be a priority or biodiversity where it stands. It is there. It has to be a priority because it goes beyond the country. It goes beyond you and me. It's about the planet basically, bringing it down to the community. And then again, Samreen, at the cost of making this conversation a bit difficult, bringing it to the level of economy. So it will impact all of us when we don't have the normal person or the regular person in that area is not well fed. It will impact the whole community, the country, and at some point in time, the economy. So we need to understand that while I talk about community, I cannot limit myself to community level impact because I see it impacts how Sindh plans its future after a flood or when they expect a drought. So, like I said, coming from that policy perspective and also that, simultaneously working with multiple stakeholders, I have to bring this lens in that we cannot stop the conversation. I understand it's very important that I talk about community level impact and the risk that community has, but I also need to make all of us aware that when communities are impacted, at some point in time, the governments are affected. And we can see this clearly what has happened in
Obviously,
Pakistan.
yes. Later at some
So,
point in time.
yeah, that's what I just wanted to link together, that the loss of biodiversity trickles down to a normal person who is not educated, the whole livelihood and generational poverty. It's, you must have heard about this, that once there is a flood, they just go back 10 years. And the
Yeah,
next generation will go into poverty, and it's a continuous cycle of
yeah.
intergenerational poverty that they might never get out of. And then, it affects how we plan for that region, how biodiversity planning can be done. But there's some good news that in countries, with UNDP support all over the world, you might have heard about climate budget tagging. You might have heard about SDGs tagging. So we do have, understanding these planetary things and the role of UNDP being a global connector and somebody who talks about global development impact. We have something called a biodiversity tagging for public investments, at least. I cannot ask about private investments, but when we're planning about a project, we tag what kind of SDG would be impacted. But now, and then we introduced what kind of climate lens would be in that project, and now we are uh, in around the globe. We are developing for different countries a biodiversity tagging. So let's start with the government, because at the end of the day, when government takes something up, it sort of trickles down to other sectors as well.
Very true.
So that would be my perspective on this question.
Thank you so very much. Now I'd like to move my radar towards Asasa. Many people, Asad, fail to connect biodiversity with daily life. How does biodiversity affect food security, water resources, and maybe long-term economic stability? Asad, you're, I believe, mute. Can you please unmute yourself?
Yeah. So biodiversity could be definitely linked with different sectors of economy in an integrated approach or as a standalone solution. For example, I was in Sri Lanka, Colombo a few months back, so where we worked out with Delmati on the ESG interventions. So they have like
Okay.
that beautiful butterfly park, and they are using it for like well-being of the people, and also using it for research of the pollination through in the fields through regenerative agriculture and other things. So again, saving the species, and apart from it, getting research out of it, which they need for their commercial operations. So it's all about, again, how best you can utilize your scientific literature skills. And so this is what we lack in the universities over here. Although we do have the international conventions, we have certain platforms like when we talk about biodiversity, mostly a normal person, or from industrial perspective, they only think of donkeys and horses, but not as a flora, fauna, and looking into other like creatures only to the extent of EIAs, IEEs, that is being catered for. But another aspect we need to look into, like as we have massively solarized our rooftops, so that is also there are certain studies that whether it is going to affect the flying path of the birds, and similarly other creatures which are affected because of that reflection of the PV panel. So either we need to add some anti-glaring sort of applications on the panels themselves. So again, technology is not the solution. We have to adjust. We have to adjust in between. Biodiversity was there in those areas. It will remain there, but at the end of the day, technology has to be adapt. We need to adapt the technology in such a way it doesn't affect the local biodiversity in any specific area, be it in deserts, or be it be aqua marine life or things like that. But ultimately, wherever people have been able to use biodiversity, they have taken the leverage of it. Like you can say, like fish cultivation in the rice farms, and similarly, like there have been like integrated approach, where certain species have also been saved in terms of various aspects. And Al Karam has taken such steps as well, in certain area of adding to the blue economy, and also and also feeding the people. So it's also addressing different SDGs again, like hunger and also livelihood and things like that. So I think it's a very unaddressed subject, biodiversity, and people only think about it from their own perspective. From किसी के पास तोते हैं, तो they are thinking about parrots only, किसी के पास, so it's all about revolving around there whatsoever they see around themselves. So I just stop over
Totally
here. Yeah.
understandable. Totally understandable. Asad, you've mentioned, and you've actually mentioned the names of the organization who are contributing towards it, and I'm really thankful to you for that. Actually, there is one thing that I also got to know about, and I was amazed to have that phone call from Dr. Khurram Sherjeel from University of Sabat today. When I shared this webcon with him on one of the groups that I'm part of, he actually called me up and said that I'm really happy that you're bringing in such a esteemed panel of speakers on this particular topic, and that's something really nice because I'm working on a research on honeybee in Sawat, and there is no talking about it. And obviously, we do not find ways to publicize it. See, there are a number of things that different universities in Pakistan are also doing. But the important part is that they're all only like confined to the boundaries of the university only. What we all need to do is to find out researchers like these who are doing such lucrative studies and publicize it. Maybe have a some sort of a research session on it, so that people at large get to know about it. And I actually offered a webcon to him. I said that let's have a webcon on it so that we can show the world what you're doing, and maybe if it is lucrative, that can be replicated in other parts of the country, or maybe globally. So this was my discussion in the morning. Just wanted to contribute. Now my question goes to Mr. Paul Pinto. Investors and regulators are increasingly discussing nature-related risks. How are corporations responding to biodiversity concerns, and are these issues becoming part of ESG reporting framework?
Yeah, I'm sorry, but I'm not very versed into this theme of biodiversity, So
So if you don't mind, can I move this question to Sajid Aslam Saab?
yeah.
Would you not mind if I move this question? Okay, all right. Yes, sir. Sajid Saab, I'm repeating the question to you. Investors and regulators are increasingly discussing nature-related risks. How are corporations responding to biodiversity concerns, and are these issues becoming part of ESG reporting framework?
Thank you, Sabrina. So let me start with the reporting framework first. So there is a framework, TNFD, which is specifically a task force for nature-related financial risk, and that's already been adopted in many countries. Right now, IFRS itself, after S1 and S2, they are also they have created a draft for S3, which is a biodiversity and nature-based solution disclosures and reporting that will be adopted in Pakistan soon, as well as in most of the world. Uh, Now, first we have to understand the economic impact, and then I'll come to the community side because these both are important. First, we have to understand biodiversity loss is an economic and security crisis. It's not only the environment related issue. uh, if the nature collapse, all the balance sheet will collapse as well. So first we have to understand that the 55% of the global GDP is directly linked with the nature or a nature related activity, whether we talk about the clean water, we talk about the agriculture, forest, we talk about marine life. So 55% of the global GDP is directly linked with that. And the ecosystem services within the biodiversity itself has a value of $150 trillion. That's something which is already identified. And now there is a proper framework which is called the Global Biodiversity Framework, which is designed, and it has got that the 30% of land and ocean resources should be preserved. And UNDP 2025 report also shows that this is achievable by 2030. So the 30 into 30 mean 30% of the land and ocean by 2030, we need to preserve that side. So if you look at that, it's achievable, but that's the current progress or a trajectory does not show that we are making enough effort to do that. Now, given the economic impact, when we look at the biodiversity and the countries like Pakistan, and Shabano earlier also mentioned about the flood and drought cycle, which we are seeing in Sindh and many other regions as well in Pakistan, that has got to directly it's impacting the livelihood of the people and the GDP of Pakistan at the same time. But it's creating an involuntary migrations, which is creating extra burden on the urban infrastructure, which is not practically designed to handle that level of population. So from a biodiversity loss perspective, when we look at that from an economic perspective, those are huge number. Those are the numbers which we cannot ignore as a country. And most of the organization, large organization or a small organization, they have got a direct link with the resources which are coming through the nature, and any biodiversity loss create another scenario. And the earlier we talked about the waste management, a lot of biodiversity loss is coming definitely from the climate change as well, but it's also coming how we are disposing of the waste, like how we are also collecting the waste at the same time. The methane, we use a term, the fastest way to slow down the global warming is to manage methane. And methane is coming from the waste, livestock, and oil and gas. There are three sectors. And the waste management itself is one of a uphill task. It's not something which everybody can do. And that's require a massive initiative, not only at the industry level, but the government level as well. And if that waste is not properly treated, again, we are talking about waste going and destroying the biodiversity of land and marine life at the same time, like the plastic example we have seen, and the landfill sites who basically destroying the underground water, as well as it's also destroying the agriculture part or a forest on the around that kind of where these landfills exist or where the waste is not properly disposed of. Now we come to that whether it's doable right now. I think where we stand today, there is a certain interventions which can be done. And the reporting initiative which TNFD is bringing in, and S3 as a standard bringing in to the play, and the way SECP and State Bank is requiring the banking sector and the non-financial sector both. So whether you are doing something or not, start disclosing it, measure it and disclose it. Once it's measured and disclosed, then there will be certain visibility how we can convert that into a business case for opportunity and profitability. The first part, again, is the capacity building to understand that space, and the data management to bring that, measure it and report that one. And the standard is going to really help that. Just one other number, and that's basically helps a lot. If you look at the recent study, the forest on the Himalaya has a capacity to sequestrate 5 to 7 ton, versus if we look at the degraded land, it has got a sequestration capacity of 1 ton max. Most of the time it's less than a 1 ton per year. So that's actually sorry, not per year, but lifetime. So that's actually brings out that where we should be focused on terms of the forestation. And if you look at Pakistan again, Pakistan is supposed to have somewhere like 25% of the land at the forest. We are at a 5-7 and we are degrading again. One of our initiative, which again, I go back to UNDP, that's one of a big achievement in Pakistan, where the federal government last year has really mapped the SDGs with the budget. And when we talk about SDG, we are not talking about the 17 SDG, we are talking about the 234 metrics with underlying those SDG, which actually help you to measure each KPI separately. We are hoping next year we can see where the budget is spent. Let's say if I take the example of forest or agriculture land. So we have got enough satellite imagery where we can track it. This is the amount which is spent in the for the forestry ministry or something with the agriculture side of it, whether at federal or provincial level, and we can see the impact. So at least that one thing, that one data set help us to start looking at the impact and the measurement. But that will again require a certain capacity building where the people can understand that correlation and bring out that information. But biodiversity loss is something we cannot ignore at all. And again, there was a one question whether we should look at the economic investment and the environment safety side of it. Can you imagine any investor who coming to Pakistan or any country for that matter, they have a view of 20 years or 15 years. That's how the industry works. I want to invest in a machinery, I will be looking at 10 years. And I find out it's a great economic policy, but there is no environment safety or environment or climate related risk management, and I might lose the natural
How will I
resources.
invest?
How I'll
True that.
invest? Right? By
Always.
55% of the global GDP is dependent there. So if the natural
Yeah.
resources are not there and they are not properly safeguarded and the climate risk is
Yeah.
not managed properly, it's directly invest that
My investment is
create
not
that
safe,
economic and
actually.
security and prices.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a
True,
economic
true,
and
true.
it's directly
Very
linked
true.
there. So
So no investment, no economic development without a secure
having a clear
biodiversity.
securing
Yeah.
or having an implementation plan, a clear policy, clear priority there. Like
True.
we cannot do
Very.
something which is going to happen over 20 years, but we can create a confidence that we are on a right path and this is the data. This is how we are
Yeah.
doing it. This is how it has impacted in the past years. This is our
Yeah.
commitment. These are success stories. There we failed. This is what we learned. And this is how we are moving on. So all these
Yeah.
things, success and failure will be a part of it. And not only for Pakistan. The entire world is moving in that direction. They're experimenting and they are experiencing, they are learning and they're moving on. But
True
data,
that. True that.
disclosure, that helps.
It's true that. True that. Identifying, measuring, and reporting is the key towards, moving forward, developing, securing systems, developing processes. Now, at the end of this section, I'd like to have this question. I believe that my team has already shared it. If pollinators such as bees disappeared tomorrow, how would that affect our economies, food system, and livelihoods? This question is for our participants. Please do answer in the comment section. And believe me, we're going to have an engagement on this WebCon on the LinkedIn, and you're going to find your answers over there. So I'd urge you to respond to it. And now the question at the topic 4 is very close to Paul Pinto's up, and I think that he's going to take interest in it. And the topic is about carbon footprint reduction. We're left with not very much time, but I'll try to end this discussion as soon as possible. We have one segment left, and I'd like to take it very fastly. Carbon footprint, what do you mean by that? The total amount of greenhouse gases, participants, the total amount of greenhouse gases, and namely carbon dioxide, methane, and nitrous oxide, released into the atmosphere as a result of human activities. Emissions come from electricity consumption, transportation, industrial processes, waste generation, and air travel. Our carbon footprint measures the environmental impact of our activities in terms of greenhouse gas emissions. It matters to us because greenhouse gases trap heat in the atmosphere, causing global warming, extreme weather conditions, floods, heat waves, and sea level rise. So the carbon footprint is basically carbon released in the air, and carbon sequestration refers to the carbon removal stored artificially or naturally. So this is the concept. And now my question is from our carbon footprint expert, Mr. Paul Pinto. And the question is, organizations around the world are under increasing pressure to disclose emissions and develop net zero roadmaps. From your experience, what are the most effective strategies organizations can adapt to meaningfully reduce their carbon footprint?
Yes. Now we get some robust figures regarding carbon emission, and we know that the GDP growth is the main factor, not the population. For example, in the last two decades, the GDP has increased by a factor of 5 as the population grew by 20%. So when people, point the finger to we are too numerous, yeah, there are too many people on Earth or too much people on Earth. This is not the point. The point is how to decarbonize each point of GDP. And we cannot do the same in the West than we do in the developing countries. We have said that previously, and we have to be very pragmatic. And the I think that now the COP cooperation of parties, the organization, the COP organization. We must go beyond that, and this is a suggestion I address to Shaban. I think that United Nations must take over this coordination, cooperation between the parties, between the countries. And I think more than that, we need to have a fund, to help developing countries decarbonize. And through what I've said previously, through the major point, electrification. I think I would like to have your point of view, because the West, the model of the West cannot be exported to the developed countries in many respects. By the way, not only in the energy transition, you know what I mean, and I think that we have to be very pragmatic. Every country, every region has its tropism, is its idiosyncrasy, and we have to respect that in terms of resources, technologies, education, and how do we how to implement decarbonization in Niger, in Mali. What does
Yeah.
it mean? You know, so I think that at the level of United Nations, because they have a lot of experts, a lot of resources, they can design a very smart and accurate plan, a 10 years plan, because we always have the 2030 in mind, but 2030 is just tomorrow. I think more 2050, I think it's more realistic to implement a plan within the developing countries. But I think this is the major point.
Okay, all right. So, Paul, what do you think? What role should boards and senior leadership play in driving carbon accountability?
Sorry,
What role?
again.
I'm asking what role should boards and senior leadership in an organization play in driving carbon accountability? What do you
This is a
think?
very good question. Leadership is everything. When I listen to you, when I listen Sajid, when I listen to Assad, Shaban, I see a high level of expertise in the subject of decarbonization, energy transition, and I think that the leaders, business leaders, the C-suite leaders in the big organization, they need to listen more to real experts. No, they listen too much to BS speech on decarbonization, and they should listen more to genuine, real experts. I don't consider myself as an expert. I work in business, in investment, but I have a lot of respect for the real experts. I have the pleasure to share the meeting today, and I think that the leaders, even at the highest level in the largest organization, they need to be lectured. They need to be lectured on what is at stake. Today I've learned a lot about biodiversity, for example, and I consider myself a bit educated in decarbonization. And so imagine the leaders in banking, in pharmaceutical, in so I think that there is something we need to improve in the we need to evangelize the big executive committee in with a very accurate and documented lecture on decarbonization.
Very well said. Thank you so much. Because I believe that being a leader actually does not mean that you know everything. You should be open to learning. And obviously, anything that is understood and followed by the leaders trickles down to the whole system, every employee, and then everyone actually does what the leader is following. So it's really utmost important that the leaders understand it first and then obviously follow it so that others might also. So my this section is ending, and I believe that we're going to move towards the rapid fire. And before that, I'd like to have the question for my participants for the carbon footprint reduction. Individuals versus corporate responsibility. How an individual you plan to reduce carbon emission? How do you think as an individual you can add to carbon reduction? Please write your answers in the comment section, and this will also be written down in there so that you may later on look into it. Now we're moving towards the rapid fire round, and the first person for the rapid fire is Mr. Paul Pinto. It's going to be a one-liner answer. Mr. Paul,
What the individual can do, this is the question?
Yeah, it's for the participants. How as an individual can you add value towards decarbonization? How can you stop bringing in carbon in the atmosphere?
The keyword for me, and I will be very short. The keyword is education. In the spend less time on television and more time on reading, on listening to podcasts. YouTube is very rich. You can find anything you want, or Spotify, or but reading and listening to podcasts, but I don't think nothing can be done without education.
True. Very true. Now we're going to start with the rapid fire round. Let me just share the rules for the rapid fire round. I am going to give you one question and instantly you're supposed to answer it. It can be a one-liner answer or a one-word answer, so that we move towards the second question, third question, and from every panelist, I'm going to ask 10 questions only. So who's going to be first? I thought of Paul Pinto, but who's going to be the first person? You can raise your hand. Oh my God. So Asad, I believe. Asad raised both
Asad
hands.
raised his hand.
Asad. I saw that. Okay. So the, the first question is from Asad, and your set of questions are here. Solar or wind?
Solar.
Most underrated renewable energy source?
Hydrogen fuel cell.
Biggest energy waste at home?
Refrigerator.
One appliance people should replace?
Inefficient fans.
EVs, game changer or overrated?
In between. Both.
Good answer. One energy saving habit everyone should adopt?
Know your electricity bill.
We know that. Biggest renewable energy challenge in Pakistan?
Sorry, what challenge?
Biggest renewable energy challenge in Pakistan?
Reliability of the solution providers.
Wonderful. One technology that excites you most?
What excites me most is the smart sensor technologies.
Wonderful. Energy efficiency or energy generation? What matters more?
Efficiency.
One thing organizations can do immediately to cut emissions?
Start conserving.
Zabardast. Wonderful. Now we'll move to Sajid Aslam Sahab. Your time starts now. The first question is, kindly unmute yourself. The
Yeah,
first
yeah.
question is sustainability, cost or investment?
Investment.
Most sustainable company you've seen?
In Pakistan, if you talk about that, so I'll go with Unilever.
All right. One business practice that should disappear.
I think waste, looking at the waste as a waste.
True. Circular economy in one word.
Sorry, which economy?
Circular economy in one word.
I think that's a way to go. That's the only way to go.
Okay, all right. Biggest obstacle to sustainable business.
Capacity, I would say, the understanding, the talent.
All right. Profit or purpose. Can they coexist?
They can. They should.
All right. One ESG metric every CEO should track.
I would start with the employee diversity.
All right. One sustainability opportunity businesses are missing.
Communicating with the customer that what they are trying to do and having a right narrative.
Okay. Most promising green industry.
I would go with the renewable energy.
All right. One thing every SME can do today.
They can switch off the extra lights, they can reduce their waste, and they can start knowing about it at their own pace.
But they cannot stop work, actually, isn't it?
Yeah. They have to continue, but they should just know about it.
Yeah. Now, my second participant is Shabanu Khan. So your time starts now, Shabanu. Unmute
Yes.
yourself. The first question is biggest climate risk for Pakistan.
Water insecurity.
Most urgent SDG today.
Today, after this discussion, this is a difficult one. As of today, for now, for this, in context of this, it would be responsible consumption and production for today.
You started with that only. Believe me, Shabanu. Adaptation or mitigation?
For Pakistan, right now, adaptation.
Climate action starts with government or citizens.
For Pakistan, with government.
One climate misconception people should stop believing.
Misconception that it's a foreign agenda and it's here, to derail us from our existing industries.
Misconception.
Yeah.
One policy Pakistan needs immediately.
The policy of implementing the policies that we
Very true. Most climate vulnerable group in society.
Climate vulnerable group, women.
True. One habit everyone should adopt.
I've been thinking about it, and I think it's the responsible use of AI, because everybody with a smartphone is just using AI like anything. So if you don't need it, then don't use it. Don't use it unless it's an important urgency.
Yeah. Most encouraging climate development you've recently seen.
Climate development. I think it's the tracking systems, be it for the government, be it for finances, or be it for your projects. I think these tracking systems are where everything begins. Once you know where you want to go, you start tracking, you try to build that path. So tracking systems, I would say.
One word describing the future of climate action.
The future of climate action. The future of climate action. I would say the promise of existence. If we don't do it, then we can't promise the existence of anyone.
Very true. Now we're to move towards Mr. Paul. So I'd like Paul to please unmute. And now your first question is net zero by 2050, realistic or ambitious?
Ambitious, but not out of reach.
All right. Biggest sustainability myth?
Good question. Biggest sustainability myth. Yeah. Can we go to the next, and I will get back to
question?
This one.
Okay, all right. Carbon tax, yes or no?
Carbon tax? No, I don't believe in tax. I believe in incentive.
Okay, wonderful. That's really hard, by the way. ESG reporting, value creator or compliance burden?
Excuse me? Sorry, I didn't hear.
ESG reporting, value creator or compliance burden?
I don't want to be offending, but
No,
yeah,
just say what's in your
I would
mind.
say
Like it's a rapid fire. What do you
it's
think? Value
to
creator
me it's
or
useless.
compliance burden?
It's useless. You know,
Okay, okay.
this is my
One word
opinion.
that defines, all right. One word that defines sustainable leadership.
Sustainable leadership, um, visionary. In one word,
Greenwashing or genuine action? Which is the bigger challenge?
genuine action.
We are going to like pause for 1 minute for the azan and we're going to resume. Okay, all right, everyone? Hi back. Now we're back with Mr. Paul and we're going to take the rest of the 5 questions. One word that defines sustainable leadership.
Yeah, I said vision, vision.
Vision. Okay,
Yeah,
all right. Greenwashing or genuine action? Which is bigger challenge?
genuine action, definitely.
Genuine action. Yeah. Most important stakeholder, investors, employees, or customers?
Good questions. I think customers, because the way they behave can change everything.
Mm-hmm. One industry leading sustainability today.
I push aside the industry that involved in the carbonization. I think automotive.
Automotive. Okay. Oh, yeah. EVs. Yeah. We can see that. One sustainability trend to watch.
Um, the um, the combustion engine fueled by hydrogen. Very interesting lead to follow.
Okay. One action every
Internal
CEO.
combustion. Excuse me.
Yeah. True. One action every CEO should take tomorrow.
Every CEO having at least a monthly decarbonization meeting. What do
Creating
we
it,
do?
making it valuable in front of the employees.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Now we have the last question for you, which was the second question, and you wanted to think about it. Biggest sustainability myth.
Yeah. This one. uh, Yeah, it's a big question, biggest sustainability myth. Um, yeah, that we can wait.
We can wait.
This is a myth.
Yeah, yeah, that's a myth. Now I'd like to, since we are actually done with most of the questions here, I'd like to introduce our Executive Director, Mr. Amir Ejaz Khan, who has joined us, has given us time for the closing. And I'd ask Amir Saab to take over. And Zunair, please make him one of the panelists so that he shows up on a bigger screen like all of us, and so that he may add his value and the discussion.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much, all distinguished speakers, moderators. Thanks, Amreen, for organizing and calling us all here, getting us all on this very particular significant issue. And thanks to Shabano, Paul, Sajid, and our other members, Mr. Asad specifically today. So they have been very pertinent on the topic. Your rapid fire, as I attended, was also the highlight of the day. You making the speakers puzzled, um, as they have to respond on impromptu. Anyhow, so what we learned from today's session, it is the theme of the day, that environmental day. We're going to rate this session with that, and what we can measure, it matters. So, as one as to introduction of those things. So starting from there, then comes, whenever it comes to advise someone, we need to be responsible enough to respond them and to advise them on the pertinent issues. And last but not the least, that locally at Pakistan level, we have to face a lot of trauma due to this. We have been lauding this in front of all global perspectives that what we are facing at this point in time is horrifying. And what we are leaving for the future is misery. So we should come collectively act on all these things that we it's never too late when it says that whenever you have some call for action, so the time is right now to act accordingly. And we should all act prudently, vigilantly, smartly, and responsibly. It is desired from all sort of leaders to act accordingly for the sake of nature, Mother Earth, for our sustainable growth, for our future generations. Once again, I'm thankful to the management of Center of Excellence and to our respective all the moderators and the panelists of the day. Thank you very much for all the participants. And I like Center of Excellence to come up with a summary of all today's discussions for a larger, perspective delivered thing, and to share with all other stakeholders who couldn't join on this forum. So thank you very much. Thanks for inviting me. Thank you.
Thank you, Amir Saab. It is so nice, and we are feeling so respected that you've joined it and you've taken a time from your busy schedule. Yes, sir, we have planned a lot of engagements out of this session. This video will be shared on our YouTube channel, so as will be shared on the LinkedIn for everyone to watch. Secondly, we have given some questions to the participants, and their answers will also be shared as an engagement on different social medias. We're also working on creating a summary and sharing. And a very important thing is that we're going to offer an e-certificate to all the participants and the speakers for being part of this event. So this is something that we have taken care of. And I believe that the earth is not a gift from our ancestors. It's a trust for our children. So save earth. Thank you so very much for joining all of us for this session. Ms. Shabano, thank you. Paul Pinto, Sajid Sahab, Asad Sahab, I'm really grateful to you for joining the session. And we're going to have a speaker's picture first. So I'd like my team to take a snap so that we can share this on social media for the speakers. And then later on, have all six of us on the picture, please, on the screen, and then take the picture. And then I would ask every participant to please turn on your camera so that we can memorize this event and share the memory with you on social media.